I'm here in Moree at the end of a week of stakeholder meetings right throughout the Murray-Darling Basin to talk about the potential impacts for the Water Act Amendment Bill that is currently before Federal Parliament. When we come back to Parliament, it has been referred to a Senate committee to have a look and investigate. The problem is that Senate committee have decided they will not go to any regional basin communities to hear from the people who will be impacted the most. So with my colleagues, with the Agricultural Backbench Committee of the Coalition, colleagues from South Australia, New South Wales, Queensland, we've travelled to the regional communities that we want to hear from. We went to Shepparton in Victoria with Sam Birrell, the member for Nichols, and heard about the hundreds of people that are employed there that could be impacted if too much water leaves the Shepparton district through buyback. We heard from the dairy processors, each of which employs about 200 people. There's 4 in the Nichols electorate alone. If more water leaves the district and more dairy production goes down, we will seriously be looking at the closure of one, if not more, of one of those plants. With Anne Webster, member for Mallee. In Mildura, we also heard from the table grape industry and the wine grape industry and the local council about the risks of stranded assets and the very real need to ensure we do have a healthy environment, but while making sure we look after our communities and we look at the social and economic impacts of the decisions we're making. We then went to Renmark in South Australia with Tony Passon, member for Barker, and heard the concerns from the irrigation trusts in the Riverland about the impact that buybacks will have and the concerns they have because the wine grape industry is currently doing it so tough. There is a glut of wine grapes. But if those farmers sell their water out of the districts, the impact that has on the remaining farmers means that while those farmers might leave the industry with dignity, their employees, the employees of the irrigation trusts, the flow-on impacts on schools and the broader community are significant. And in Renmark, we were joined by Andrew McLaughlin, Senator for South Australia, who has taken a real interest on issues of water policy for his state. We then travelled to Griffith in the Riverina, very close to where I live, and we heard from over 120 people attended our meeting there, with Susan Lee as the local member, and we heard directly from the people about the concerns, about the impacts the last round of buybacks had on the Griffith community, not just with the water leaving the district and loss of productivity, but the impact it had on planning for local government and funding for local government, because their funding is based on population projections. And at the time of the last buybacks, their population projections for the area of Griffith went backwards by 20%. And that impacted their funding and what they could do as a local government. And today we've been in Moree with Mark Coulton, member for Parks, and we had people drive all the way from Queensland, from the Boulogne Shire in Queensland, which is the very top of the basin, and Gundawindi from as far south as Gunnedah and Brewarrina and Burke. And all of these people travelled because they have concerns about the impact of no regrets buyback policy. They all understand that there are better ways to get environmental outcomes, and they're all asking us to protect the socio and economic test that was written into the original Basin Plan by Tony Burke back in 2012. We are taking on board all of this information. We're going to collate it into a report. I'm going to present that report to the Senate committee, and I hope they listen to the voices from the communities that they have refused to come and see and hear from directly.